Welcome here to another lovely day in Vassiliki. The wind's blowing a bit, it's turned cross-shore, which is normally a good sign for the Vassiliki winds, but I don't think it's going to get that windy. There's definitely people planing nearby, all on 6.5 to 8 metre sails, let's say, and some foilers cruising around too, but this is where you have a choice. And this video today, if you didn't quite get it from the title, this is aimed at intermediate windsurfers, which is quite broad, I know, deliberately, because maybe you've not been doing it long, just a couple of weeks, maybe you've been doing it a couple of years and you're not that comfortable in the foot straps. All of these little tricks and games and exercises, everything I'm about to go through, will help all of you with everything. So during face-to-face coaching sessions and clinics, we could focus specifically on the tack, on the gybe, on getting in the foot straps, on our stance, on this, on that, and I could go on. And I do that, of course we do that, but what I quite like doing is making quite broad, generic sessions that slowly build up to improve our balance, our coordination, our agility, and our general control whilst windsurfing. And that's what this is about. Now this will be a little bit broad. I want to keep the whole thing kind of brief and moving on. So if there's anything in this video that didn't make a lot of sense, of course that's not going to happen. Let's say anything in this video you want a bit more explanation on. Why is that relevant? Why would you bother doing that? Or how does that relate to full power high wind windsurfing? Just ask me in the comments. And usually what I'm going to do is reply through the Patreon link where I've got the walk along series. It's my chance just to walk along most mornings, have a little chat with the dogs and explain a little bit more about questions and queries that people may have. And just to say it again, these skills and drills are light wind practice for high wind technique. You could see them as light wind freestyle, which is great and super useful. However, I'm going to think of it more as these light wind skills that will make you better at high wind stuff. For example, one great one I'm going to start with is bearing away ever so slightly wider hands, and I'm going to go all the way back into both foot straps. Now this is tricky, of course, depending on what board you're in, you really have to pull down through the mast, you really have to be slightly off. Ooh, it's hard work as well. Slightly off a beam reach to get into those foot straps and definitely pulling through your toes. But light wind into both foot straps and then keep sailing. You'll notice I'm out the harness while doing this. By the way, I'm on a 4-4 slash just now. This is the freestyle sail from 0.7, 4-4, powered up enough on a windy day. Super powerful, in fact, on a windy day. Not just now. Once I can do that, both feet into the straps in the light wind, it's quite a good fun one to then go front foot only into the strap and then around what is very nearly a Flaire gybe. Bring you back round to the middle. From there, let's try that again. You could call this a non-planing Carve gybe, could call it a Flaire gybe if I deliberately sink the tail like I did on that one. But the point is, one foot goes in the strap, then you go round a gybe. Now, build-ups from that, because a lot of these you can just keep getting it harder and harder and trickier, but also better for that conversion into the high wind. One of the conversions would be sink the tail as much as you can. My knees have gone almost under the water there. Then the foot change and bring it round. Question I know you're wondering right now. I'm on a 133 litre Carve. I weigh roughly 80 kilograms, maybe just under. And I can definitely sink the tail, which could link you back to that foot strap exercise. I'm going across the wind, light winds, deliberately a sink. Bring it back and step out. It's definitely about being coordinated and agile, not just stuck in the same sailing position. Now that's taking me downwind a bit, so let's go upwind, but let's do it in a different way. So I've stepped around pretty much in a beam reach, ever so slightly upwind. I'm now sailing back-winded, but it's bringing me upwind. It's bringing me around a tack. Through the wind, close, beam, sail back on the normal side. So you may have seen back-winded tacks elsewhere in the channel. This is like an extreme version of the back-winded tack. The way it goes. Cross that front hand over, nimble feet, stepping round quick. To sail upwind now, I'm hard on my toes and bringing the sail fairly hard against my shin down to the back. Power back on the normal side. Now if that works, you've got the hang of that, then, just like with the other ones, let's crank it up a little bit higher. Lovely, just as a little gust comes through. So, step round to your back-winded bit. And this time, keep sailing across the wind. I'm most definitely looking where I'm going, so I've got some space. The way I'm sailing across the wind is the sail isn't fully down to the back. It's moving slightly towards the wind, which is this way slightly, and then back down to the back again. Now, options for here are to go around a tack, or what I'm going to do is spin that way, but keep the board facing the same direction. Big duck under the camera as it whipped round there. I'll show you that once again. Roughly on a beam reach. Sailing across the wind. I've got some space. Just under the camera. Bring it round. The board has not changed direction, but basically I've done the exit to a heli tack. Like I say, I'm not going into full details on all of this, but if you want to know more, let me know. And if there's enough comments on the bottom of this or enough questions through the Patreon link, then I might even make a full video showing exactly which skill you're asking me about. The build-up from that one then, let's go even further. So you've managed to step round to back-winded. I'm aware of the wind, the space and what's going on around me, but this time, instead of spinning round like I did before, I've taken us around a back-winded gybe. Let's do that in the other direction. Into back-winded, step round a bit. Back-winded gybe. One more to be clear. Remember, a gybe, if we're just getting our terminology right, the board turns downwind. That's what's happening just there. And suddenly I've taken that same skill that we were building up, linked it sort of into a heli tack, sort of into an upwind 3, which if you're now building up your freestyle skills and you're watching this as an instructor, super good for a high wind backwind gybe or a flacker jumping into that upwind 360. And what you saw just there, stacking up the gybes, different sort of direction, just because I managed to get upwind a little bit more there. So that Flaire gybe, that non-planing front foot in the strap gybe, very similar. But this time, once I've made it round, stay clew first as long as you can. Wide hands will make it easier. Looking where you're going will definitely make it easier still. And you've got an option from here to either finish the gybe like normal, or bring it back around. Now there's another video on the channel called Gybing without Gybing, and that's kind of what this one is just now. I've taken you all the way around a gybe, so I'm definitely on a beam, whee, in the new direction. So I have jibed, but I haven't changed the rig. Bring it back the other way. Gybing without Gybing, which is actually super similar to wave riding. And that's the way I've linked it on the Gybe without Gybing video. I'll make sure there's a link of that one in the description. Agility, coordination, balance, other little exercises that I quite like playing with in this light wind, again checking for space, is switch stance. The foot change is very similar to a tack and Gybing footwork. Gybing closer because the foot change happens at the back. It needs to be quick. You've got to be nimble underfoot. And most importantly, I think this is a key one, you can't look at your feet. Step back, step forward, still looking forward, still looking at the wind, the direction you're going. Bring it back to normal. Now, how about mix matching some of these little games together? For example, check for space. There's a lot of people out today. Into switch stance. Then round a gybe. That all begun slightly upwind on the original side. What about from here? I'm now sailing clew first. Switch stance. Finish the gybe. This next one is one of my favourites. I'm going to call it the waft. Take yourself onto a run and get stable. The sail then wafts and plays and moves from side to side quite dynamically, getting lower and lower if you can, even crossing onto the boom from side to side. Into the waft. Right now you can definitely imagine this being handy when you're coming out of a gybe, but it's the same waft, that same pull that will help you mid-tack, or even as you're halfway up the uphaul, trying to get into your sailing position. That same rig control, dynamic, wafty movement will make a huge difference as you start to progress. Easiest example, look, I'm nearly in my sailing position. That little pull of the sail from nearly in the sailing position to there is almost the same as what we were just doing. Check that space again, because as I go around the tack, ready, steady, there, it's the exact same wafty pull. A great way to practice this, and I hope you've been with the channel for a while, and I hope you know what's coming. If I say disco gybe, stick with me here. Beam reach, exit. It's not exactly the waft, but it's close. You can see it from there. The last little game, trick, exercise I want you to play with, or I'm going to show you very briefly just now, is trying to steer without moving the rig. Now, I've definitely done full videos on this one and there's more coming, but basically the faster you go, the less the steering is up here and the more the steering is below your feet. The smaller the board, the more important that is. For example, if I want to turn upwind, foot pressure goes hard, all my weight, all my power, on the back foot. The board skews up into the wind. To turn away from the wind, the front foot. So can you steer without really moving the rig? The weight back, the weight forward. If I've managed to do this correct enough, You can see from the camera behind my head and the editing I've done, yes, of course, the rig is moving a bit, but not much. I haven't adjusted my hands at all because I want the steering done through your feet. The better you get at that, the easier everything will be. That is all for today, ladies and gents. Thank you for joining me here on the Ridealong channel. Do remember, subscribe, like, tick all those little boxes and all that stuff just down below. Most importantly, leave me a little comment. Which of these exercises are you going to give a go? Or if you're not sure, maybe even start a little discussion on how you think that could apply to some normal high wind windsurfing. If there's enough comments on the same exercise, I definitely will be doing a full video on them. But most importantly, of course, join that Patreon thing down at the bottom, and that way I can do your own little question and answers when the time comes. Hey.